Have you ever wondered if there was an ancient message hidden in plain sight, one so old that it has survived thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to be understood? Imagine a clay tablet created nearly 5 millennia ago, covered in mysterious symbols that most people would dismiss as nothing more than the records of a forgotten civilization. But what if those markings weren't simply documenting the past? What if they were pointing toward the future? Today we're exploring one of the most fascinating legends surrounding ancient Mesopotamia. The claim that a Sumerian tablet contains a coded timeline predicting the return of mysterious beings known in later traditions as the Watchers or the Nephilim. Whether you see this as history, mythology, or an incredible mystery, stay with me until the end, because we'll examine where this story comes from, why it continues to fascinate researchers, and what the symbols on that ancient tablet are said to reveal. Hidden away inside museum archives around the world are countless artifacts that rarely make it into public exhibitions. Most of them are simple records of trade, agriculture, taxes, or religious ceremonies. Clay tablets are among the most common discoveries from ancient Mesopotamia, and for the majority of archaeologists, they offer valuable insight into everyday life rather than extraordinary secrets. Yet over the years, a handful of tablets have become surrounded by stories that stretch far beyond conventional history. Among these is the tale of a small clay tablet that some independent researchers believe is unlike any other. According to the legend, its markings don't merely recount events from the distant past. Instead, they form a sequence of numerical patterns that allegedly point toward a future moment in history. Rather than describing the rise of a king or the destruction of a city, enthusiasts claim the tablet hints at the return of beings who once descended from the heavens. To understand why this idea has captivated so many people, we first have to travel back to the birthplace of civilization itself. More than 5,000 years ago, in the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians established one of humanity's earliest known civilizations. They developed writing, organized cities, and recorded thousands of clay tablets that still survive today. Their achievements laid foundations that influenced countless cultures after them. What makes Sumer especially intriguing is the way its people describe their origins. Unlike many civilizations that portrayed themselves as gradually discovering knowledge through experience, Sumerian mythology often speaks of wisdom being granted by divine beings. Their stories describe powerful entities known as the Anunnaki, figures associated with the heavens and the divine order of the cosmos. Within Sumerian religious literature, the Anunnaki are portrayed as gods who played important roles in creation, kingship, and the organization of civilization. They were not described in scientific terms, nor did the Sumerians leave behind straightforward historical accounts proving physical visitors from another world. Nevertheless, these myths have inspired generations of readers to wonder whether the stories preserve memories of something more than symbolism. Centuries later, another tradition emerged in ancient Hebrew writings. In the book of Genesis and later in the book of Enoch, readers encounter mysterious beings called the Watchers. According to these texts, heavenly figures descended to earth, interacted with humanity, and their actions produced catastrophic consequences. The offspring associated with these accounts became known as the Nephilim, often described as mighty men or giants. Although these traditions developed in different cultures and different periods, many modern writers have noticed similarities between them. They suggest that the Watchers and the Anunnaki may represent different cultural interpretations of the same ancient memory. Mainstream historians generally reject this conclusion, arguing that the stories evolved independently within their own religious contexts. Still, the comparison has become one of the most enduring mysteries in alternative history. This brings us back to the mysterious tablet. According to those who promote the story, the tablet appears unremarkable at first glance. It is relatively small, with rows of wedge-shaped cuneiform impressions pressed into its surface. To anyone unfamiliar with ancient writing, it looks no different from thousands of other Mesopotamian records. Yet supporters of the theory argue that its importance lies not in the appearance of the symbols themselves, but in the numerical structure hidden within the text. Rather than reading the markings as a straightforward narrative, They claim the tablet contains 12 interconnected numerical sequences. Each sequence is said to correspond with cycles observed in the night sky. Only when those astronomical cycles are compared with one another does an entirely different pattern emerge. This interpretation has become the center of countless debates. Some researchers believe the 12 sequences symbolize celestial movements that repeat over enormous spans of time. They argue that the Sumerians possessed remarkably sophisticated astronomical knowledge, something that is supported by genuine historical evidence. Ancient Mesopotamian astronomers carefully tracked the movements of planets, stars, and lunar cycles for centuries. The controversial leap occurs when modern interpreters suggest that these observations were intended not merely to measure time, but to encode a future date. According to the theory, each numerical sequence acts like one piece of a puzzle. Individually, they seem ordinary. Combined together, they allegedly narrow history toward a specific period rather than a single calendar day. Instead of functioning like a prophecy written in plain language, the tablet supposedly hides its message inside mathematical relationships that can only be recognized after completing all 12 stages. Supporters argue this explains why the message remained unnoticed for so long. Without understanding both cuneiform writing and ancient astronomical cycles, the code would appear meaningless. Critics strongly disagree. Professional Assyriologists point out that ancient texts often contain complex numerical systems connected to religious rituals, calendars, and administrative records. Numerical repetition by itself is not evidence of a hidden prophecy. They caution that modern readers can unintentionally find patterns that the original authors never intended. This disagreement has fueled decades of discussion. Some independent researchers claim that once the astronomical calculations are completed, the resulting timeline points toward the modern era. Rather than identifying a precise date, they argue the calculations indicate a broader window during which extraordinary events could unfold. This claim has become one of the primary reasons the story continues circulating online. It's important to remember that no scholarly consensus supports the conclusion that any known Sumerian tablet predicts the return of supernatural beings. The interpretation belongs to the realm of alternative history and speculative research rather than established archaeology. Even so, the question remains fascinating. Why did ancient civilizations around the world repeatedly describe divine beings descending from the heavens? Why do stories separated by geography and centuries sometimes contain surprisingly familiar themes? Were these similarities simply the natural evolution of mythology, or did they emerge from shared human experiences that became transformed into legend? These questions have inspired countless books, documentaries, and debates. The Sumerians viewed the heavens as a realm of immense importance. The stars were not random lights scattered across the night sky, but markers of divine order. Priests observed celestial movements with extraordinary care because they believed the heavens reflected events taking place on Earth. This genuine astronomical tradition often becomes intertwined with modern speculation. When people hear about coded star patterns, mysterious numerical cycles, and forgotten tablets, it's easy to imagine hidden messages waiting to be uncovered. Human beings are naturally drawn toward puzzles, especially those connecting ancient history with our own future. Whether those puzzles represent intentional codes or modern interpretations remains the central question. Some believe the ancient world possessed knowledge that has since been forgotten. Others argue that we sometimes underestimate the intelligence of early civilizations, while simultaneously overestimating the mysteries surrounding their achievements. Perhaps both perspectives contain part of the truth. There is no doubt that the Sumerians accomplished remarkable things. They pioneered writing, organized complex cities, developed legal systems, and carefully documented astronomical observations that influenced later civilizations for thousands of years. Those accomplishments alone make their surviving tablets among humanity's greatest archaeological treasures. At the same time, separating documented history from imaginative interpretation is essential. Legends become more compelling when they contain fragments of genuine history. And genuine history often becomes even more fascinating when viewed through the lens of mythology. Whether the mysterious tablet truly contains a coded prediction, or whether the entire story grew from modern speculation, it continues to encourage people to explore one of humanity's oldest civilizations with fresh curiosity. Perhaps that is the real significance of the legend. It reminds us that countless ancient texts remain untranslated or only partially understood. Every archaeological discovery adds another piece to the story of our past, and sometimes those discoveries inspire questions that reach far beyond what the evidence can currently answer. Maybe the greatest mystery isn't whether an ancient prophecy predicts the future. Maybe it's why stories written thousands of years ago continue capturing our imagination today. Across cultures and generations, humanity has always searched the skies, wondering who or what might be looking back. As long as those questions remain unanswered, the legends of the Anunnaki, the Watchers, and the Nephilim will continue to inspire debate and exploration. Whether viewed as mythology, symbolism, or something more mysterious, these ancient stories remind us that history is filled with unanswered questions, and sometimes the most intriguing discoveries are the ones that encourage us to keep searching.